Good morning. Sorry I'm running late. Technology was not being my friend yesterday. It is continuing to bring me some stresses and tribulations today. So I feel as if I've done nothing for the last 24 hours but battle with my laptop and various programs and things. So let's come in and do some crafting. I've got a drink of water. Got a really quite sore throat this morning, but we're going to do some crafting. So apologies that you didn't get a 6 o'clock live yesterday. As I explained on my post, it was my intention to do a video that I was going to then upload to YouTube and link across to Facebook to go live at 6, so that you got to do some crafting with me at 6 o'clock anyway, but that all became apparent that was not going to happen. Yes, great difficulties yesterday, but I did do a video. It just didn't record properly, so I did make the beautiful projects that I was going to be sharing with you yesterday. So what I'm going to do this morning is I'm going to share with you the projects that I made for you yesterday and tell you about how I did them and share a few tricks and tips and things, and then we're going to do a bonus project this morning. So we're going to do something else using this beautiful Christmastime is Here suite, and this Christmastime is Here suite is now available for customers to buy. So you are, having seen it this morning, you are then going to be able to get it for yourself if that is something that you'd like to do. And later on today I will go back through my orders from October, and I will put all the people that have put in £30 orders during the course of October, during the course of my birthday month. I will put those in a draw a name out, and the lucky winner will be receiving one of these bracelets, one of these bangles, which is one of the items that's in the Christmastime is Here bundle, and it comes in a beautiful box, which I've got just here. So it all comes all gift wrapped in this beautiful box, which is this is one of the papers that's in the pack. So it makes a lovely gift for somebody, even if that somebody is yourself, which is what I did with this one. This is my gift to myself. So let's remind ourselves what there is in this Christmastime is Here bundle. So let's just stack up some of our beautiful projects for a moment and have a little look at what actually you get in this bundle. So it consists of 2 stamp sets. So you get this large, really large stamp here, which is a red rubber stamp with this rose and all this foliage all around it, including some little pine cones and things. So it does make it really lovely for Christmas, but you could disguise those as something else and make this a flower for any time of the year, really. So you get the really big red rubber, and then you get this stamp set that is photopolymer, and you can use lots of these images to infill the colour on this stamp. So these roses here, which is a distinctive stamp, you can use to colour that stamp just there, and the same, you've got all the foliage. So it's a little bit like a jigsaw puzzle, great fun. But as we showed on Monday when we made this card, you can use that stamp set as a standalone, and we just use those photopolymer stamps to create this card on our live on Monday. So 2 lovely stamp sets, so a goodly amount of stamps, and the first time that stamping up a bundle together, a rubber and a photopolymer stamp like that. You also get a die set that can go with this bundle, and you've got the big die that cuts out that rose image. Then you've got a couple of labels, this lovely sort of trellis work, either the wide trellis or just the little border strip, and then you've got these fancy corners, so some really nice embellishments there that you can use to build up some really nice card fronts, or to decorate boxes, or all sorts of things, packages, bags. There's the ribbon. So this is a gold shimmer ribbon, and even if you colour this in with your blends, which you can do, that shimmer still pops through the colour. So a really lovely, and a lovely soft gold colour. It's not a harsh gold at all. It's a really pretty soft gold. and then you get these gold glimmer dots, and they're really, one of the things I really like about them is it goes sort of big, medium, small, big, medium, small. So if you wanted to share these, or if you were taking them out and about and you wanted to take half with you, you can very easily cut that sheet down the middle. So that's really a good little pot, if you were making up a gift for somebody and wanted to put some of those in it or something. And then of course the other thing that we get in this pack is the papers. And you've got 12 sheets of paper, 12 by 12, 12 by 12 sheets in this pack, as is the norm for most of our DSPs. And you do get 3 different design ways of double-sided papers. So you get this sort of green scrolly sort of pattern. You get this one that's got the pine cones and the berries and the leaves on, and you've got this swirly pattern which is the same as on that box with the bangle. And then if you swing them over, they're foiled on the other side, so you've got all these small roses with that foiling on the white roses. You get these beautiful big rose images, and at least one of these can be cut out. One of these images can be cut out with that big die. Again, gold foiling, and then you get this beautiful paper here. I love this one. It's got just such sophistication and regalness about it. So you get 4 each of those 3 different double-sided design ways in this pack. So some really lovely papers. And I did promise on Monday that we'd be using the papers a little bit more. So I have done in some of the projects that we're going to be looking at today. So let's just pop these all in here so we don't lose them, and we've got them on hand if we would like them. So that is the suite of products. You don't have to buy it as a whole suite. You can. So you can get the whole thing with everything in it. And that is £103.50, and that includes the bangle. You can just buy the bundle with the stamp sets, 2 stamp sets, and the dies, and that is £56.50. You can buy the stamp sets on their own. So that 2 set stamp set is £35. The bracelet on his own is £20. The papers are £13. The dies are £28. The ribbon is £6.50, and you get 10 yards on there, 9.1 metres. And those gold glitter enamel dots are £7.50. So a beautiful selection, as I say, and you can mix and match, have everything, have a bit of something. Just pick out 1 or 2 elements, whatever you fancy. So this was the card that we made on Monday, where we couldn't case the catalogue because this isn't a set that's in the catalogue, so we cased the samples instead. So that's our little sample that we cased on Monday, so using those photopolymer stamps. This was one I shared with you on Monday that I had made before, that I'd stamped with gold embossed and then used those photopolymer stamps to do the infill colour. This is one, so we haven't seen this one before. This is one that I did after I'd finished the Facebook Live on Monday, actually. I thought, oh, let's have got it all out, so I just started to play. So this is that designer series paper, and I've just cut, leaving a bit of a border all around the edge to make it easier to cut. I've cut out one of those little bouquets of roses from one of the papers. I've added a bit more, sort of dipped the edge or brushed the edge with some gold embossing powder, just to help that pop off the back. You've got some of the paper here, and you've got some of those fancy corners in there, and just some of the ribbon tied with a bow. And the Today Blooms Just For You greeting that I've added to that one actually comes from the perennial birthday. So this goes to show that this set is not just for Christmas. You can use it for other times of the year as well, and that would be quite a nice sort of wintry birthday card. So let's have a look at the 2 projects that I made on yesterday on the video. So let's start with this little box. Now this little box is one of the gold pizza boxes, and they come in a pack of 8, And for anybody that was on the retreat with me, in their goodie bag, they would have got a pack of 8 of these gold pizza boxes. So this is a suggestion for how you could decorate them. So they fold up into these little boxes. You'll see that inside they're really shiny. That's because they are food safe. So if you want to fill those with sweets or cookies or anything edible, then that is absolutely fine. You can do. They are food safe. But it doesn't have to be edible goodies that you put in there. It could be little tea lights. It could be jewellery. It could be all sorts of things. So in order to decorate this box, what I did was I've taken this paper here and I cut 4 strips of it that measured 3 1/4 inches long. So I've done it in inches because the boxes come up in inches. So it's 3 1/4 inches long by 3/4 of an inch wide. So for 3 of the strips, I've just stuck those straight on. For this 4th strip, I found whereabouts the centre point was, and I used my little 1/2 inch circle punch and just punched a bit of a nick out of the top of that strip of paper, and then it fitted really nicely along the curve of that finger tab piece just there. So that was the 4th side. I just found a centre point and took that little nick out of it with my 1/2 inch circle punch. So that was the 4 sides decorated. The top, this is a square that measures 3 1/8 of an inch, because obviously the lid of the box is slightly smaller than the base of the box and the sides of the box, so that square needed to be slightly smaller. So 3 1/4 on the sides, 3 1/8 on the top. I then cut a stitched label out of some of that green paper and measured where it needed to be cut off and cut it off, so you've got like an arrow shaped stitch label behind there. I took the stamp set, that's the photopolymer stamp. I took some of these little dots that are in here, one of these dotty stamps, I think it was that one, and I've just stamped and gold embossed some little dots around the edge there, just to give a bit of interest in that paper. I've got a couple of leaf punches from Mossy Meadow just there, and then I've made up these roses. Now I'm sure many of you will have done these 3D roses before, but if you haven't, let me show you how. Right, I'm just looking round because somewhere waiting to be plugged in is my hot glue gun. There it is. So let me plug that in so that that's heating up while we're doing this first piece. So I have used, for my roses, I've just used some circle punches, and some of them are 2-inch circle punch, and this is the 2 1/4 inch circle punch. You can obviously use dies, or you can just find something that's round and draw round it, and whatever works. And it depends, whatever circle size you start with is going to lead to whatever rose size you finish with. So there is no there's no hard and fast rules. You can have whatever size circle as a starter and whatever size rose to finish with. So you could go with much smaller ones, you could go with huge ones, you could have one great big rose on the top of there if you started with a big enough circle. So I've got my circle of card. This also could be paper, designer series paper, it could be newspaper, brown paper. You could scrunch it up and make it a little bit sort of more vintagey, whatever you like really. But you're going to start with your circle of card and or paper, whatever it is, and you're just going to tear it in a spiral. And obviously these all turn out differently because, well, I defy anybody to be able to do this exactly uniformly. It's going to depend on which way the grain of your card is going and how thick your card is and all sorts of things. So you're just going to keep bringing it round, and you're going to leave it so that you've got a bit of a tab like that on the end. So you've got like this funny little, you've got a long spiral Where's the front of our top of our spiral gone? Here it is. So you end up with a long spiral, and on the end you get this little tabby bit just here. And then what you do is you simply start from this pointy end where you started your tearing, and you simply start curling it round. Now it may be that you might want to use a bone folder to get that curling to start with, but it does quite easily go, and you're just going to keep rolling that up, following it round. So keeping it flattish on the bottom. It won't necessarily be flat on the top. It will be sort of a bit variated depending on how you've torn it, and some bits will be taller than others. Here we go. We're bringing it all the way round, and then we get left. So we've got this little spiral here, and we've got this little flappy bit on the bottom. Now this is where our hot glue gun comes in, and hopefully it will have been warmed up enough to give me a squidge of glue. Yes. So all I'm going to do then is I'm just going to sit that rose in that squidge of glue. You can let it sort of unfurl a bit before you stick it down if you want to, depending on how tight a bud you want for it. So that's quite a tight little bud just there. Some of these I let unfurl a little bit before I stuck down. This is a much smaller one. I'm just going to trim off that little bit that's sticking out just there. There we've got quite a neat little rosebud just there. Now obviously I don't need any more on my box, but you can build that up as much as you like with the different colours. Now the other thing that I did with these particular roses is I took my Versamark rose, and I just literally dabbled it in my Versamark pad. Picked up my gold embossing powder and dabbled it in my embossing powder. And then actually I've got some tweezers here. I think I'm going to hang on to that with some tweezers. And let's just heat that up. And then you get your sort of gold shimmery, it's not showing up very well on that camera, but your gold shimmery bits around the top of your rose. So that just adds a little bit more makes them look a little bit more vintagey actually, almost. It sort of just gives them a little bit of a vintage edge just by having that extra little bit of gold on the edge there. So I simply did that with a piece of real red, a piece of cherry cobbler and a piece of white cardstock. Gilded the edges with some gold embossing powder. Took a loop of the ribbon, so I literally just took a length of the ribbon and curled it round like this, and used a couple of glue dots to hold it in the middle, and then stuck it underneath where I've laid those roses and those leaves, and then a few little glimmery dots in there as well. So that's how we built up that box using some 3D roses. So rather than using the stamp set or the dies, that was created using some 3D roses made out of cardstock that matches the colours. So that was mainly flowers and things in there, but makes a really pretty box. And you could use that for Christmas, but likewise it could be used for other times of the year as well. So one little box to add to our list of projects. The other card that I did, let's see, on here somewhere, I did have, waiting to show you all the bits of paper that I used for that card. I've obviously buried them somewhere. So for this second card, I've actually done some 3D decoupage on it. So when I first started card making, all those years ago, I used to do quite a little bit of 3D decoupage, but in those days it tended to be pre-bought sheets and things. Just going to unplug my glue gun. Tend to be 3D sheets and things that I bought, and they either popped out or I would cut them out, sit and fussy cut all these little bits out. But you can do 3D decoupage using your stamps, and this was a stamp that just seemed to shout out to be decoupaged up. So all I simply did was I took the big rose stamp and I stamped it 3 times. So one of the images I used the matching coordinating die and I cut out the entire image. So that's one's just here. And then on the second image I just cut round the 2 roses. So this is this second layer. Just here is the 2 roses, and then for the third layer I just simply cut round this large rose just here, and this is this top layer just here is the third rose. And then I got out my blender pens and I had a dark and light mossy meadow. I used a real red for the little berries here. This little rose here was in Rococo Rose. This rose here was cherry cobbler. There's some old olive for the piney leaves, soft suede for the little pine cone. So just building up all the colour. So obviously I coloured these outside bits. I did put colour on these middle bits, but I wasn't too worried about it. I just laid down a bit of colour so that, you know, where you can see it peeking out, you can see that there's some colour there, but I wasn't particularly worried about having too much detail on it. So this is the Rococo Rose, so I used the dark Rococo Rose around the edges and to add in shading, and then went all over it with the light one. And the same with the cherry cobbler, so dark around the edges, all over with the light one. But I felt that it needed a bit more definition on this rose, so I did use the light soft suede and went right around the edge with it and in that centre bit, and then blended it out again with the light cherry cobbler just to add a little bit more shading around that outer edge. And partly because I think my dark cherry cobbler stamping blend, I think I need to treat myself to a new one. It was getting a little bit dry, so that's another reason why I needed to add in a bit more shading. But yeah, just building up that colour. And then I just used some mini dimensionals. So I curled, so after I'd cut them out, I curled them slightly to give them a little bit of shape, and then built them up using mini dimensionals. I then, because I felt it needed something to help this pop from the background, I then used that big die that you use to cut out the rose shape. I used it and cut out the same shape for some gold foil. There we are, there's evidence that that is what I did. And then just like we cut in half and explode a lot of our label punches, that is what I've done. I've cut it in half. Hi Karen, I cut that gold foil in half along here and I've exploded it out, so you've got a little flash of gold foil this side, you've got a little flash of gold foil this side, and then I put this swirl of ribbon in that gap in the middle before popping that onto the card front. The little greeting, may this Christmas fill your heart with warmth and love, I've gold embossed, and then I've exploded. I've done again, I've cut that, so I've used the label to cut that out, the label die, and I've cut another one in gold foil and then exploded that out to extend that a little bit, and then just a few of the little shimmery dots. And so that's some of that DSP, and that was on a real red card base. So I took my A4 piece of card, and I know that an A4 piece of card cut in scored in half is 14.9 centimetres. So I cut it at 14.9 centimetres wide to give me a 14.9 centimetre square card. So that's just under a 6-inch square card, and obviously, you know, if you're watching from America, it would be a question of deciding, you know, what's the biggest square card you can make out of your sheet, and that will be half of the length, and then cut the width to match to give you the length of your card. I think off the top of my head, is it 11 inches long, your cardstock in the USA? Somebody will no doubt tell me, in which case it would be a 5.5 inch wide, scored at 5.5 inches would give you that card. So those were the projects that I made yesterday on my video that didn't work. So that's just sharing them with you, talking you through how I did them. So that's 3D roses on the box and 3D decoupage on the card, made by stamping that image 3 times, cutting out, gradually getting smaller images, colouring them in and building them up. So that was yesterday's 2 cards. But as I promised, because you haven't seen me making those live today, we will go for another bonus card today. Now, this is going to be a let's see where it takes us, because I really have only just got out a whole pile of stamps, inks, and I've got my stamps. I know what I'm aiming for. We will see where it takes us. Let's hope that I'm not going to have the same issues with stamping as I've been having with technology. So let's just, I know that I can just about squeeze that stamp onto that block. So there's our big red rubber stamp on our block just there. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to attempt to no line watercolour this stamp. So if you've never no lined watercoloured before, what we're going to do initially is I'm going to ink up this stamp with Sahara Sand ink. So Sahara Sand ink is a very pale colour, and you can do this with any pale colour. So you just want a very light coloured ink. And I'm actually going to stamp this off onto my paper. In fact, it may be that this wants re-inking, and it's very light anyway. So let's stamp that onto there and see if we've got enough of an outline. Yeah, I can just about see that, and that's all I need to do, is to be able to just about see that. Because actually the idea is then I'm going to watercolour it with my inks. And it will look, hopefully, as if I've not stamped it first at all, as if I've just purely got out my paints and painted it. And the idea behind having using the you know, a really pale ink is because it will just then, the edges will just blend in with whatever you're painting it with, because obviously it's a water-based ink. As soon as we add water to it, it is going to that ink is going to blend in with whatever colour we're doing. So what I'm going to do first is go round the outside and lay down my outline. I'm just using my brush I hope my head's not getting in the way. Just using my brush to come round the outside of those leaves. Apologies for my bracelet clonking on my glass mat. So wherever the artist has drawn a line, that's where I'm drawing a line too. And obviously it's going to be a little bit hit and miss as to whether I pick up every line, but that's not anything I'm particularly worried about. And then we'll start to infill some of that colour. Let me add a bit of water into there. Just laying down some colour. And obviously, if you were going to do this at home, you would take a lot more time. One of my lovely team members, Bonnie, I don't know whether she'll catch up with this because I know that she's away, but she'd never done no line watercolouring and had a real baptism of fire in it because she created 60 save the date cards for her daughter's wedding, and they were absolutely stunning. So you can keep playing and adding in more shading where you want it just by laying down some more colour. I've actually stamped this onto shimmery cardstock. I'm going to have You could also do it on watercolour card. Right, obviously I can keep playing with that and keep adding more little bits in. Let's go into our other rose and let's do some real red on that one. So again, let's start by, and this outline could have probably done with being a little bit darker. I think my ink pad wants could do with re-inking. So as it stands at the moment, I could have got away with just stamping it on first generation rather than going second generation, but that's okay. Those two colours almost look the same, don't they, watercoloured? A bit dark around there. Right, let's go in and do some of these bigger leaves. And obviously you can use your the picture on the front of your stamp set as a bit of a guide as well to where your painting. But because the idea is it's going to end up as a fairly sort of soft watercoloured image, you're not looking for absolute perfection at this stage. It's supposed to be quite a sort of soft, watercolouring is quite a sort of soft effect. And if at the end of the day you haven't quite got something on your image that was on the original stamp set, then it doesn't matter, does it? Because it's looking as if it's your original painting anyway. What does it matter if it doesn't quite match up? I'm very aware that there's lots of little berries down there. Got another leaf just here. And then there's another one just up here. Thank you for sharing, Karen. Just spotted that. And then I think the last of these sorts of leaves, these big rose leaves, is just up here. Oh, sounds like the postman's just been, an almighty clunk through the door. So there's our leaves. Let's just squeeze out that brush. We've got a few little soft suede pine cones in here. So let's bring in some soft suede. We've got one up here. And these pine cones sort of, it's almost, they just sort of are quite blobby, aren't they? So let's just add in those blobs into there. Wants to be a little bit drier, that brush. Sorry, stretching over. We'll just add in that sort of blobby texture that's there. And another one down here. Sort of almost like a paint by numbers type of thing, isn't it? Only you haven't got the numbers. And one up here. more dark on that one. Okay. So then we've got these little red berries, or these little berries. We'll make them red. They don't have to be red, obviously. So let's just come in with some little red berries. And some up here. Some down here. These ones are slightly bigger, whether that's because have they been more in the sun, or is it just the angle of the picture? Who knows? Few little ones just in there. And some more down here. I'm going to go back in with my mossy meadow because one, there's a couple of spots that could do with a bit of filling in terms of leaves. And also we need a little tiny bit of greenery with these berries just to join them together so they don't just look like they're floating in midair. A bit there and a bit on this bit just here. And then last but not least, we've got these sort of ferny elements. So I've got some old olive here that I'm going to do those with. And these are really sort of almost just brushed in. Little lines that are sort of fanning out from a central point almost. Quite a bushy bit up here. I'm just literally using my brush to put in these brushy lines. And then again up here. And obviously you could probably get yourself a slightly more fancy pants brush if you If you're a watercolour specialist, which I am not, I make no pretense to be at all. Add in a bit more depth just there. I'm quite pleased with my little ferny bits. They're looking quite good. Now as the rest has dried out a little bit, if you feel like you wanted to add in a bit more detail on anything, this would be the time to do it. So like this pine cone just here seems to have gone into a blob, so let's add in some detail on the top there to hopefully make it a little bit more pine coney. Now I did cut out this piece of shimmery white cardstock with some with one of the stitched rectangles. Now again, now that's dried out a bit, I'm going to go back in with the cherry cobbler, just put back in some of those sort of lines just to give it a bit more dimension. And you could have I could actually go in if I wanted to make those lines a bit darker with perhaps something like a grey, which would just highlight them even more, but that's giving it a bit more dimension. And let's do the same with the real red, although that one's a bit better in terms of having its sort of a bit of an outline. So there we go. Now quite tempted, not sure what colour to go with, soft suede I think. I'm quite tempted to pick up a bit of the soft suede and just do a little bit of splattering around the edge. There. Hi Sarah, lovely to catch up with you too. So we've done a bit of no line watercolouring, so we need to back that up onto a card now, but just, you know, that's the same image coloured in with Stampin' Blends. And there it is doing no line watercolouring. So really, really much softer But you know, they're both equally beautiful. So what shall we do with our what shall we use? Oh, I do love that paper. That looks quite good, doesn't it? I have used that one quite a bit, really. That one looks a little bit busy, but I'm wondering if we were to divide that from that background a little bit. Whether that would work, and I'm just wondering what colour card base to put that on. Decisions. It's good to play. Grab a piece of real red as well whilst we decide. I've got various shades of green, but I'm thinking ooh. No, I think it's going to be real red all the way. The decisions we have to make, don't we? So let's take this piece of A4 cardstock and let us cut it at 14.9, and then let us score it at 10.5 centimetres. So this is just making a standard card base, and I'm sure that you can make that work with wherever you are in the world. So then I'm going to take another piece of real red. Now the stitched rectangle that I used to cut that one was not quite the largest, it was the next one down. So let's take the largest stitched rectangle and let's just run that through my machine, which I've got standing next to me just here. So I'll run that through my die cutting machine and cut a large stitched rectangle. These stitch shapes, particularly the rectangles, do make quite a noise as they go through the machine. And they do also like to hang on to your cardstock. So there we go. We have a stitched rectangle in real red, and we have a stitched rectangle in shimmery white cardstock. So now let's take a piece of this paper and we're going to make this 14.4 centimetres wide. So let's bring my trimmer into view, particularly as today is the first day as a customer that you can order your trimmer, and we're going to make that 10 centimetres wide. And I've made sure that I've cut that paper so that the pine cones are going the right way. And I think we'll have that on a little bit of a jaunty angle, just so that that pine cone paper is peeking out in the background. Let's move those colours off of the back there because they're making it all look altogether too busy. Now where, oh where, has my little snail gone? Oh where can he be? I'm sure that I saw him in there before I went live. He's obviously crawled off somewhere. That's okay. We'll have a little bit of Tombow instead. Come along, little Tombow. Oh look, I can see my snail now. You see, I knew he was there. Right, so let's put our watercoloured card on its stitched rectangle with its bit of splattering around the edge. Let's put that onto some real red card. Before we stick that on there, well, it's a shame to cover up this gold embossed paper, but that would have been much too busy. Now, let's bring that in like that. Let's find our photo polymer set and have a look and see. Quite tempted just to stamp that directly on there with some stays on, and let's hope it behaves and stamps beautifully. If not, we will be stamping it again and putting it on a label, but fingers crossed for a beautiful first stamp. So let's ink up our stamp, and let's give ourselves the best hope by bringing in a mat. Oh, I hesitated quite a while before I stamped that, which is not going to be good because the ink will have dried. Oh no, we're okay. Wishing you the gifts of the season, peace and joy. So I think we should have a few little of these gold glimmer dots. Oh, that one has lost its gold backing. If that should happen, if we take our put the lid on my stays on so that that doesn't dry out. I'm just looking, I've had my pick-up tool earlier today. Look, it's sticking out, that's why I can't see it. If I take this, where this, it's left the backing behind on the sheet. Where are you? Just there. So I'm going to put the backing down because that's sticky. And then I'm going to take a little glue dot. It probably just means that something went wrong with its little glue dot. So I'm going to put a glue dot on top of that gold backing and then pick up this little shimmery bit, because this is where the shimmery is in this top sort of epoxy piece. And we'll layer that on the top. So we've actually rebuilt our gold shimmer dot. Let's have One more down here. Oh, see, I've done it again. What have I done with my dot? I've got my sticky bit, but I've not got my dot. It's very odd. Let's just take another one and lay it on the top. There we go. Okay, so we have lovely shimmery dots on there, wishing you the joys of the season. So there was a card I've made for you live, because the rest were just catch-ups from where everything went technically horribly wrong yesterday. Oh, I found my little dot now. Let me just put that to one side. So we've got quite a collection now of things using this Christmas Time is Here Sweet. So this was one that I created just by cutting out paper. This one was stamped and gold embossed and coloured in using the photopolymer stamps. This one is no line watercolouring. We've got a little box using 3D torn roses to decorate it. We have our card that we made on Monday with those photopolymer stamps, and then we've got the card that is 3D decoupaged and coloured in with the stamping blends. So lots of different projects, lots of inspiration using this beautiful suite of products that is now available while stocks last. So it is a while stocks last thing. If it's something that you want, then do get them sooner rather than later, and then you can be playing too and making some just slightly unusual Christmas cards. So thank you for coming and playing this morning. If you do want any of the items that you've seen today, or anything else indeed, and you're living here in the UK, then do get in touch. As I said, later today I will do my draw to see who is going to win the bracelet from my birthday month last month. And during November, you should see go up, as soon as I've got all the details, I've actually joined and become part of a tutorial bundle group. And what that means is that for anybody who is placing an order of £45 or more during the month of November, will automatically be sent a PDF containing, and I'm not sure on numbers, I think it's probably going to be about 10 different tutorials from 10 different demonstrators. It may be more than that. Watch the space. I've not had the completed one sent to me yet, so as soon as I do, I will pass that information on. So you will get a whole host of tutorials, and this month it was using the Perfectly Plaid suite, so those lovely Christmas trees. But obviously you can sort of look at inspiration and use different stamp sets and dies and those sorts of things to create projects. They just give you ideas. So that will be a whole host of projects that you will get coming to you via email in a big PDF document that are then yours to recreate and to be inspired by. So that is what you will get during November, and as I say, I have joined that group, so that will be an ongoing offer that anybody that spends £45 with me in the course of a month will I will be sending them automatically that PDF with all those tutorials in. So that's really exciting. It's a really exciting new thing that I'm involved with, and so we'll see how that goes. So thank you for joining me. If anybody locally is around and wants to come and join us at the craft day at Great Doddington Memorial Hall tomorrow, we shall be there from 10 in the morning till 6 tomorrow evening. Just come along, bring your crafty projects with you and craft along with us. Or just come along for a cup of tea or a piece of cake or a bacon roll or whatever it is you fancy, whatever time of day it is, and just support us as we are supporting the Golden Years charity, a local charity that works with the slightly older members of our community. Old, but by no means stopped having fun. They get out and do all sorts of wonderful things, and we want to support them in that. So do come and join us on Saturday. Pop in and say hello. Come and have some fun with us. So I will be back on Monday with a new product of the week. I will go back to battling with my laptop and with technology. Hopefully this video will get uploaded to YouTube at some point in the near future. And I'll see you all soon.